Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg, and welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Today we're just playing some Hitman 2, which has been pretty fun so far. It's very similar to the previous game. There's just, a bunch more of it, and, it's entertaining. It's just entertaining to kill people. But we already knew that. So yeah. Not much else to say about that. Yeah. So anyways, I was on a trip. I was on a trip this weekend. We went about an hour and a half away to this this water park, I guess. A few months ago, I was like, it'd be cool to just have the group of us go away to like a cabin or something. We all hang out, stay a few nights, and just play games for a whole weekend. No interruptions, no people, doing other things or leaving or, I have other plans. We want to just sit there together and play a whole bunch of games. And when I first mentioned it, I didn't think we would ever really do it. And if we did do it, it would be like sometime next year, or who knows when we finally got it organized. But since I offered to pay for the entire, trip, that's a big motivator for people. And so we organized it very quickly, and we went. Now I thought, Ziggy actually picked out the place, and I just booked it. But I actually thought it was going to be like a cabin, a little bit more isolated, but it was actually like in a hotel. It was literally just a giant hotel room, which was kind of cool too. I was worried that we might get some noise complaints, but that never popped up, and we were pretty damn loud. So, it was a very nice room.
Hello, sir.
And I was mostly interested in just playing a whole bunch of RPG stuff, getting a campaign started and playing, 7 hours or something like that. But I knew that wouldn't be the only thing we'd do, so there was plenty of board games involved. And think of that, bitch. Oh, crime notice. Oh, apparently not. And, so yeah, a bunch of board games were brought and played, and we also did, we had a Switch there, and we played some Mario Party, the newest Mario Party. And so we let's see here. So we got there Friday around 4. I think we played some Mario Party for a little while. We went out to dinner at like a German place, actually, which was pretty good. And then when we got back, we played Age of Discovery, the sort of Age of Empires game. Which is, you know, a big Euro game. I'm not, you know, semi-Euro, I suppose. It's funny, I'm not really a big fan of the game. You know, we had decided that if you picked out your favorite game, you know, we would try and fit it in during the weekend. So I wasn't going to begrudge Ziggy for bringing it and picking it. But I'm not a big fan of the game, and so I tend to just, like, sort of pick a joke strategy. That didn't do anything. My joke strategy usually is just get the most money. Get as much money as possible. And just, I don't even know what to do with it. I just get the most money. That's the funny part. I don't know. That's just what I like to do. But the really funny part is I tend to win, like, I've won like 60% of the time I've played. And, I don't think this actually, I don't know if I can actually snipe this woman. I think it would be cool, but I don't know if it'll actually connect. And I ended up winning the game that we played, even though it was like, I didn't... God damn it. I didn't feel like I did anything. I just got a lot of money. But it's apparently a pretty viable strategy a lot of the time, so go figure. When we played a little bit of Skull, and that was kind of it for Friday. It was not a super busy day. Then Saturday, Mert arrived at like 10 a.m. So we got started Saturday morning with a rousing game of Battlestar Galactica. Which is a game that I very much enjoy. And so I picked Gaius Baltar again, of course. I just can't help myself. If he's a possible character that I can pick, I'll go for it. Oh shit. So you know, the thing about Gaius Baltar in the game is he's more likely to be a Cylon, which makes basically you're playing a little bit of a challenge mode. Because everyone is far more suspicious of you than anyone else, just regardless. And so it's a little bit of a bummer if you are not a Cylon. Because it's definitely, the game is more fun if you're a Cylon. I'm definitely missing these shots. The game in general, I think, is just more fun if you're not a Cylon, or if you are a Cylon, because there's just so much more opportunity for lying and deception and all the fun stuff, spreading paranoia and accusations and all that good stuff. When you're not a Cylon, you're just desperately trying to hold on to this crumbling ship. So I tend to prefer being a Cylon, especially as Gaius, because everyone suspects you're a Cylon anyway. So if you're not a Cylon, you spend the whole game just desperately trying to save the ship, to save humanity, and then they just throw you in the brig anyways, because, well, fuck it. We have no idea who the Cylon is, so it's probably Gaius. Which, you know, I'd be like, okay, I mean, if I was a Cylon, I'd be like, alright, that's sound logic, I suppose. But since I'm not, it's just like, well, you guys just aren't figuring things out very well. Especially because Gaius' big power, once per game, is he can look at all the loyalty cards of another player. So, I looked at Ziggy's cards. Well, let me really explain it. Let me break it down. I think it's just a matter of it's far easier for me to lie than it is for me to convince someone of the truth. I don't know if that's just because of the game or because of our group or because of me, but that seems to be the case. I just perform far better as a Cylon than not. Because, like, you know, I looked at, okay, so the halfway point of the game hit, everyone gets another loyalty cards, you have another chance of becoming a Cylon. Immediately after that, Ziggy, who was the admiral at the time, declared martial law, and he immediately became president. He took it away from me. So he was now the president and the admiral, which no character should ever be. I mean, regardless. Really. And, this was very suspicious, of course, to me at least. But people suspected me of being a Cylon just because I was Gaius. That was their only logic. They had no real evidence. It's just, oh, he's Gaius. He's got to be a Cylon. Literally, I have like a 8% chance or like 12% chance higher of being a Cylon than everyone else. It's not like drastic, but that's just they have no evidence, so they just point to the most likely. And so I'm like this is super suspicious. And so I used my power to look at all his loyalty cards. I saw that he was a Cylon, and I said he is a Cylon. And he, of course, said, I'm not a Cylon. That's, interesting you would say that. And they're just like, well, you know, either one of them could be a Cylon now. And it's just like, well, what can I really do here to convince them? Like, they're already prejudiced against me, you know? Whereas if I'm a Cylon, I don't know, there's just so many more possibilities I can do for spreading accusations. Even as Gaius, they're already going to suspect me. But it's far easier to just sow discord and paranoia than to really convince someone of your innocence. So they eventually locked me in the brig for whatever reason. Even though, like, I was not the president. Ziggy was the president and the admiral. And I was just... There were a couple times where we had the skill check come up. Everyone put in some cards. Or, you know, a bunch of people put in cards. And the skill check massively failed. And so they were like, it's Mangg. It has to be Mangg. There's no other possibility. Mangg is a Cylon, and he screwed us. And I'm sitting there, knowing that I'm not a Cylon. I know that I did not do any of this. And they're like, there is no other possibility. They looked at everybody's, like, you know, skill cards that they could have had, that they could have put in. And they're like, there is no other possibility here. And I'm just like, I'm about to just end the game and show you my cards. Because there has to be another possibility. And it turns out that there had two people that were putting in Destiny cards. So we had twice as many random cards being thrown in. And if I had not, like, really stood up for myself and just been like, this is not a possible, something else happened. So that was a big screw up. And then down the line, it happened. That didn't happen again, but we failed another skill check big down the line. And again, it's like, I know that I did not do it. Like, I put in 2 cards, and we had like 6 bad ones. I'm like, I know that I did not do it. But there is no convincing someone that has just... that it has this conviction. Which is true for a lot of things in life. But... it was just... I felt powerless for a lot of that game. Whereas, as a Cylon, I always feel like I can just spread more lies. There's a limit to how much truth you can speak. There's no limit to the amount of lies you can speak. That's what I think. So, of course, we ended up losing because humans don't get to win Battlestar Galactica. Basically, if you become a Cylon, you get to win the game. Otherwise, you lose. Oh, I got it! I actually nailed a shot. Okay. Unfortunately, we have to do this without really getting caught. So yeah, basically, I think we mostly lost because we had trusted one other player that we thought was good, but turned out to be just a good Cylon. And that's how it goes sometimes, because it's really hard to tell. But everyone is always like, well, Gaius has a good chance of being a Cylon, so let's just go with him. And so I think me being Gaius, no matter what, leads to a higher chance of a Cylon victory. Oh, nice.
Next up, Robert Knox.
That was pretty badass. Fortunately, they're gonna find this. Yep.
Come here.
Now look what I gotta do. Anyways, moving on. So after Battlestar Galactica, we started our Stars Without Number campaign. Oh, that's why I forgot Friday night. I'm sorry. Late Friday night, we did character creation for Stars Without Number, which mostly wouldn't have been really an issue, but Studs was pretty drunk at this point, and so I think if he had been sober, I think his character concept would have come together a little bit better. But what he ended up with is a little weird. He's like a hacker, but he really wanted to be an entertainer as like his background for some reason. I have no idea why, but he wanted to be an entertainer. And so he had decided that he's a hacker that gives like TED Talks. And it's like, I don't know if that's really an entertainer at all. That's like a scholar or something. Like I don't know. I've never really watched a TED Talk, so I don't know if the primary goal of watching them is to be entertained or to be informed. But I don't know. It was a little out there. Especially because he made this big stink about how he didn't want to do anything with combat. He wanted to have no combat potential. No combat skills. He didn't even like want to carry a gun. But then, the next day, when we started playing, we saw on his character sheet he had written down that he has 2 laser pistols. And he like didn't even remember why. So it's just, it was a little wild. Drunk character creation. But yeah, so we started playing around 1? Maybe a little bit early? I don't know. It was around 1, give or take. Yeah. And yeah, because we ended at like 7. So it was around 1. So it was a 6-hour RPG session, which is... we have not gotten to do that in a long time. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I mean, that was, like I said, the main thing of why I wanted to go was to do that. So it was definitely worth it. And The only problem was, really, it would have been actually better if we had staggered it. Like, if we had done one session worth, like 3 hours or so on Friday, 3 hours or so on Saturday. And also the chairs that they had at the cabin, you know, like, basically like hotel chairs. They're not really meant to be having lengthy game sessions in, so it was definitely a little bit uncomfortable. Especially towards the end, people were getting restless. So I think staggering it out would probably be better for next time. But it was a lot of fun. I'll talk about the session in a little bit, but it was enjoyable. So we did the session. Really, the timing of the session was entirely based around Mert. Because Mert's married, he's got 2 kids now, he's, you know, he's a busy guy, can't really get away that much, and so we planned this whole trip, and all he could really do was get here, get there at like Saturday morning, 10 a.m., and then leave Saturday evening. He wasn't planning to stay the night. So we based the RPG session around that. So he left at 7 when we ended, and that was it.
Yeah, Robert Knox owns the whole thing. He straight up just wanted.
So I would have honestly liked to go on even longer, perhaps. Again, maybe staggering things out, but 6 hours just it was good, but I perhaps greedily wanted more, of course. After he left, we had some food delivered from a local restaurant, which was hit or miss, I guess, depending on what you ordered. I enjoyed my food, so that's all I can say. Big burrito. And then we played, I think we played some more Mario Party. We played Mario Party a couple times throughout the day. Fuck did we do after that? We played... Oh, I think they went to the water park. I think that's what happened at that point, if I'm not mistaken. So they went to the water park. I had a personal hot tub because, well, you know. Why not? So I just went in that. Then we reconvened and we played... God, what am I missing that we played? I know we played The Mind again, which was fun. I think that might have been right away. And then we played Cosmic Encounter, which was good. I did not win. It was a 3-way victory without me involved. After Cosmic, that might have been it. Like, we didn't play that many board games. It felt kind of hectic. It was, you know, like a day and a half, really, of gaming, and that just, it fills up quick, especially with a 6-hour RPG session in there. So, yeah, we didn't play a whole lot. I think we ended the night with a bunch of us playing more Mario Party, which was, again, pretty damn fun to just scream at people and break up friendships. And then that was it. We got up, we cleaned up, and we left. Not a whole lot else to say.
That's insane. Okay, McKinnis, let's run this test. Hello, HR?
But everyone really enjoyed it. Even more, pretty much everyone enjoyed it more than Gen Con, which I was kind of surprised. I thought everyone liked Gen Con quite a bit. I probably preferred it to Gen Con as well, but that's because I'm not buying or as interested in board games as much. So there are good things about Gen Con. And we're going back next year because we have it planned. But after that, next year for this trip, we're thinking of adding an extra day and going up on like Thursday. And then the year after that, we might nix Gen Con entirely and just do 4 days of this, which would be pretty wild. But there's really no stress. You don't have to walk around. You don't have to deal with noise and other people. You just sit there for days and you just game. You just have fun. So if we have more time, we can play more board games. We can spread out the RPG sessions. We can potentially play some more video games. Although the only problem was, our base group is 5 people. And video games for 5 people is a little... I don't know how you really swing that. I'm not sure. So... I don't know. We'll see what happens with that, but... It just so happened this time we always had one person sit out that volunteered. Anyways, it was a good trip, but I'm definitely tired, and so I'm actually not going to do an extra SCP video this week, because I would have to just cram it in today and tomorrow and just... it's my channel. I can do what I want. I answer to no one but me. Yeah, so that's that. Alright, moving on then. So this week on this channel, we finished up Call of Cthulhu, of course, which was pretty short and somewhat interesting. Somewhat interesting.
Hey there, sir. Not a terrorist or anything like that.
What the fuck? You can't say that in 2018. So Call of Cthulhu's done. We started up Doom 3.
Haven't seen your face before.
Yeah. That's 9 on.
And that'll go on for a little bit, a little while. We've got, of course, Final Fantasy Never Ending. And aside from that, there's not a whole lot else to say. So... for the foreseeable future, it's going to be Final Fantasy X and Doom 3. That is what I can tell you. The Exploring series we had...
Security guard.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
You didn't hear me?
Oh, shit. I'm bumbling around here. We got to load. What did we do on the Exploring series? Fuck, it always feels so long ago. It was something... No, it wasn't the dragon one. It was the one before that. What did I do? What have I done? Oh my god, I cannot even remember. And I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, SCP-4000, right? Yeah, okay, the forest and the fairies and the names, yes. So that was a lengthy video. I was really worried how people would accept my explanation, but it seemed to be alright. And then we had the Dragon video, 1762 I think it is, which was received pretty damn well. A lot of likes on that one, and that's one of my personal favorites that I've done so far for the channel. So, good stuff all around. This week then I worked on a video for... I forgot the number. I literally do not know the number. It's the deer. It's the big god deer Saturn thing. Which was a fun video to work on, because it wasn't just Here, summarize an SCP article, and there you go, explain it. You know, I got to cover a bunch of mythology stuff, Greek mythology and things like that, and intermingle it with an SCP article. So, that, you know, that's a video where I think it's a lot better to have an explanation than just a reading. If you're really knowledgeable about, you know, astronomy and Greek mythology and things like that, maybe if you just hear a reading, you'd be like, oh yeah, of course, duh. But I think most people will be interested in a proper explanation. I wanted to get, like, on the roof or something. I want to snipe this guy as well, but there doesn't seem to be roof access anywhere. I mean, we're on the roof. So...
Haven't seen you in a while. What you been up to?
Mostly resting.
Oh, maybe
Doctor's
over...
orders.
What is
I
this?
think Al-Qaeda already did a number on me.
Here we go. So yeah, I'm hoping that's received pretty well, also, because it definitely took some work. Artwork was pretty limited for that, because I didn't just want to use that many just random deer pictures, you know? Like magical deer pictures. Because, you know, the thing I'm talking about in the video is kind of specific in appearance. It has the floating ice particles and metal spheres, and it's got the humanoid face. So I didn't want to just use like 3 pictures and be done with it, so I threw in a few extras, but yeah, it's definitely limited compared to a lot of other videos. But I'm hoping it's good. That's that. So I guess we'll talk about Stars Without Number now. I don't think this is where you would snipe someone. There's no sniping opportunity here. Alright, so if you missed the session, you didn't want to watch 6 hours or whatever of a bunch of nerds sitting around a table talking about nerdy shit. Oh, this could snipe somebody if he goes out that way ever. So my character, you know, when we sat down for character creation, none of us really had any idea of what we wanted to do. I think Studs was the only one that had like an idea in mind that he wanted to play, which is funny because his character is just the weirdest. But I was just gonna see how the rolls went and, you know, see what they got me. If I got charisma or lead skills or something in that vein, I was perfectly fine becoming the captain. I definitely like that idea. If I got, you know, more intelligence and stuff like that, I was perfectly fine playing a more Gug character, hacking and blah, blah, blah. It just sort of depended on how the rolls went. And so I ended up getting... My stats were fairly average. I had a low strength, so that sort of nixed any sort of melee character. Oh, that's him right there. That's not where he needs to be. Damn it. That's not going to help us do anything. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so I got low strength. The rest of the stats were pretty average.
Mr. Knox, great to have you with us today.
And then, for my random background, I rolled it completely randomly, and I got Noble. I was like, okay, that's definitely leaning towards Captain. Someone with a noble bearing would likely lean towards the Captain role, I think. And I got... so, when you roll your stats, one of them can be bumped up to 14. So I decided to bump my charisma up to 14. And I built myself basically like Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly. I mean, that's definitely like the basis for the character. He's got a revolver. He's the captain of the ship. You know, I took the focus gunslinger because I thought that was cool. And I decided, you know, I'm going to play a good guy. My last character in Icons was a bit of a shitbag, I'll admit. I wanted to play a good guy, willing to do some crime, but not really wanting to hurt people unless it's necessary. You know, self-defense, stuff like that. So I wanted to play a bit more of a hero this time. As the captain, you know, a heroic captain. I think that's good. You know, you don't want a real shitbag captain, because then that leads you down some dark paths. And so...
Keep safe.
I have, like, the lead skill, I have the talk skill, shoot skill, of course. Probably one other, like, administer or something. And... for my name, they have a bunch of random name generators in the book. Of course, if you saw my primer videos. And they're based on, like, sort of different cultures. Earth cultures. And I'm like, I'm gonna go with Japanese. I've never had a character with a Japanese name. So why not? So I rolled randomly on that. And I got Katsu Kobayashi. So, Captain Katsu. I thought that was cool. I liked that. And our starting planet was... I say was. It was called Avalon. Basically, it was sort of an underground planet because the atmosphere was very thin. And the... it had basically once been a pretty powerful... like, it had a powerful civilization, but it had fallen from that to tech level 3, and so the old power had been lost, and now this new power had taken over its place on the planet. And so my guy was a noble.
You look well prepared.
He had come from a noble family that had been a part of that old guard, you know, the old power before it fell. You know, it fell like 100 years ago. So he had never known a life of nobility, really. He just had a name attached to it. And so since the fall of power, most of his family had sort of died off or been murdered in a coup or, you know, whatever. All he's got left is like a brother and an aunt. And so he's never really known a life of wealth and nobility, even though, you know, his name still carries some respect, even though it really shouldn't. And so...
okay, McInnes, let's run this test.
Good day to you, sir.
You're sure you fixed all outstanding issues with the micro actuators?
Yeah, boss, I'm sure. Checked an hour ago. All lights are green.
His goal was to just get the hell off this planet. There's really nothing tying him there anymore. He wanted to be the captain of a ship, his own ship. He didn't want to just, you know, take some passage somewhere else and live a random, rambling life. He wanted to be a captain of a ship. That was his life goal. Because I figured I gotta have a strong impetus here to become a captain. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it for Katsu. It could be Katsu, but that doesn't sound as good. I have no idea. And so... Phil then is, or no, Studs is a hacker that does TED Talks. He also wants to get off the planet. Mert is, he was like a physician in the war, in some war, on like civil war on his planet that occurred a while back. So he's definitely seen a lot of war, and he's familiar with medicine and surgery and stuff like that. And so he's basically our main gunner. Phil is our engineer. I think he has the least amount of backstory. I don't even know what it is. He just is like some grease monkey that fixes stuff. And he had found a robot that had been deactivated, and he fixed it back up, and that's Thomas's character, who rolled randomly on the Latin name table and got Servius. And so we thought that was pretty perfect. So he's Servius, our pilot, our robot pilot. He used to be a pilot for decades, and then he was deactivated during something, and now he's been recently reactivated, and he wants to be back in the pilot seat. So we sort of based all our characters around a specific ship role, even though when you start the game, most of the time, you're not going to have a ship. But that way, when you do get a ship, you all fit nicely into a slot. So we started out on this planet. It was underground. And it was also the sole supplier in, like, I don't know, the galaxy or something, of this of a pretty precious metal, or mineral, known as azurite, which Ziggy did not even realize he was taking from the recent WoW expansion. He said that it was like in his mind, he must have heard it somewhere, and so that's what he used, azurite. It was this precious mineral that was used for, like, coatings on melee weapons and armor and stuff like that. It was pretty valuable, and this was the only planet that really had it. And so we sat down, we got together, and I'm like, okay, there are a lot of ways that we can get money. You know, there are legal ways, there are illegal ways, there are really risky ways, there are less risky ways, and I sort of went through the list of things that I had come up with that would potentially be lucrative. And we went over the pros and cons of some of them. Ziggy really just sort of put this world in our laps and just let us go. You know, he had a couple things like in mind that he mentioned to us, but nothing really concrete at all. This is a sandbox game. That appealed to me so much, because I'm like, we can do anything. And so we had decided to go to the surface, where there was really no atmosphere, and go scavenging to maybe find valuables from an older civilization, or perhaps some azurite, an azurite mine or something like that that was not being utilized. Basically to try our luck up top. So we had to get vacuum suits, which we did. We scrounged up, we pooled all our money together, we got some vacuum suits, we got a skiff. It was like a motorized cart that we could load up with whatever we find. And we also got a pressure tent, which was this tent that unfolded and had a supply of oxygen for 24 hours. For 5 people. So quite a bit of oxygen. And so this was basically to allow us to sleep if necessary, but also to resupply our vacuum suits with oxygen, because it runs out after 6 hours. So I knew we were not going to be done up there after 6 hours. So we needed something to resupply with, and I figured the pressure tent was good. So we headed up there, and I didn't even mention my class, our character classes. So I think a bunch of them are experts. I think that was the most common one. Thomas, the robot pilot, is definitely an expert. Phil is definitely an expert. Studs is a partial expert. Partial psychic. And Mert is a partial warrior, partial psychic. And then I am just a full-on psychic. Because you know me. I just love that shit. So I had to be a psychic. Pretty much no matter what I got, I was probably going to be a psychic. So I went with Precognition. I thought that was just really cool for a captain to just, you know, be a step ahead of everyone else. You know, not maybe the most direct, like, combat application or something like that, but it allows him to look out for his crew every step of the way. You know, with, you know, visions of imminent danger and stuff like that to save their lives. I thought that was pretty appropriate. So I guess I'll just keep wandering around, but I don't think I'm gonna kill this guy without
Just
focusing.
checked this. I ran the calibrations twice.
Security.
And so
Collecting pictures of celebrity entrepreneurs now 47?
Precognition gave me, I can spend effort for the day.
You're back in that You. Yeah, are you?
Hey, check this out, bitch.
Jesus Christ.
There you go. Deal with that.
Targets down. Well done, 47. Head for an exit.
Unnoticed kill. Yeah, okay. So it allows me to basically ask the GM a question. If the answer would occur, or the answer would be revealed to me within the next whatever time period based on my precognition skill. So for me, it would be one day in the future. So when we got to the surface, I asked Ziggy, I don't remember exactly what the question was. It was something like, will we encounter anything notable if we head in this direction? And so what I saw was us in our tent with like some stranger that was shivering in the cold or something like that, and we were like, you know, we were talking to him or something like that. This was just my little vision that I got. I was like, okay, so there's some guy out here that is freezing, and we can potentially save his life by helping him. And so this is where I said, like, I want to be the hero. I want to be a good guy this time. So if Katsu got that vision, he would try to help this guy and make that vision come true. Now, I don't know if he's actually a good guy, or if he's going to murder us in the sleep, or, you know, in a couple days he kills us all. You know, who knows? All I know is that I got that little vision, and I have to act based on it. And then I had a thought. It was like, am I helping this guy just because I got a vision of me helping the guy? You know, like, am I sort of going against logic and being like, okay, well, future me helped this guy, so he must be good, right? But I decided to just, we'll see how it goes. You know, the visions are not like set in stone, right? Obviously, that does not have to come true. I can act in you know, contrary to what it shows, but it's very useful. It's a very useful ability. And so we head in that direction. Sure enough, we met the guy. We got him in the pressure tent. He started to warm up, and he told us that he worked for this company, the Drethic. There's basically this big civilization, this big faction that's spreading across the galaxy called the Drethic. And so on this planet they had like the Drethic biosphere, which was basically the new power that was mining all the Azerite, and I really resented them, so I did not like them. And this guy apparently worked for the biosphere, but he had fled or something like that, and he had been chased down by some bandits. There was a roaming bandit horde on the surface, which was crazy. And they were led by this one guy who was said to be immortal. And he walked around the surface without a vacuum suit, which would, you know, normally kill you. So he was really this enigmatic figure. And so this guy had apparently encountered them, and they let him go because they wanted him to go back to Avalon City, the main city, and like tell them that they were coming, that they were planning a raid or something like that. I don't know. But he said that he had found a location of this like mining cache or something like that. It was like this bunker where they had somebody kept a huge supply of azurite. It was like this lockdown bunker. And so he had known about it. The big warlord bandit guy knew about it, but he couldn't get into the thing, and so he was going back to his camp to get equipment to break into this facility to get the azurite because it's valuable. And so I'm like, we need to get there. That's our scavenge. That's what we get, and that's our ticket out of here. So we have to get there before this warlord and his bandits. The problem is we are not equipped, A, to take on a horde of bandits and some immortal guy, B, to break into a facility like that, really, C, to mine azurite, because the guy did not know if they was like raw azurite, it was like a mine, or if it was already processed, or what. D, we were very limited on supplies in general. Our oxygen supply was limited, we had limited food, and we're just generally pretty fragile. So it was really risky. But Katsu, he wanted to get the hell out of here. This was his ticket, so we mushed on. We sent the guy packing. We sent him back to Avalon City. We wrapped up the tent, and we kept on going. The problem was, like, oxygen supply was limited. And so if we all just went in there and slept for 6 hours, that was going to eat up a huge amount of our reserves, our oxygen reserves. So we had to constantly sort of calculate this based on distance. And we eventually calculated that if nothing really went wrong, we would get back to the city with 1 hour of oxygen left each, which was cutting it pretty damn close, but we went on. We get to this facility, we get to this bunker door, and we get the hacker on it, because there's a keypad. He starts working on the hack. It's a little iffy, but he gets us in. We start walking through this place. It's pretty sparse. We come up to 2 doors. One's a security room, and one is sort of ajar. They start working on hacking into the security room. I go into the other room and find a whole bunch of robots, a whole bunch of bots. Only one of them is working. It's a janitor bot, so I just tell it to follow us. They start working on the security room, but the hacker, Studs, fails. He just blows it. He fails. And so alarms go off. And further into the facility, where presumably the azurite was, these huge blast doors start closing, which would not lock us in, but it would lock us out of going further in, which that's sort of crummy because that's probably where all the good stuff is. So Phil immediately starts booking it, and he goes through the doors before they close, followed by Servius, the robot. So they both are on the other side of the blast doors. We have no idea if we can ever get these blast doors open again. So as far as I know, they're gonna die. Well, the robot will deactivate, run out of power, but the other guy, he's done. But I'm like, okay, get this security room open now. I don't care if you have to hack it or bust it down, just get us in there. So he starts hacking it again, and just as he's about to finish his hack, I get a vision. I get a precog vision, because this is one of my abilities. If there's ever imminent danger, I get a vision that would help me, that would give me time to sort of avoid it. So I get a vision of the door opening, a soldier war bot on the other side of the door turn and just start filling us with bullets or lasers or whatever. And so just as he's about to finish the hack, I'm like, there's a soldier bot on the other side of the door. And so we sort of move against the side of the wall next to the door. The door opens. We hear sort of him walking towards the door, and I'm like, all right, get your guns ready and just point it at this thing's head as soon as it comes through. And sure enough, we basically ambush it. We do a little bit of damage, but not enough to kill it. So it's gonna get a shot off, which could easily kill any one of us. And I was actually like, I was worried not even just for me, but as, like, I'm the captain. You know, our first, like, mission together. And I lose a man. I've already lost potentially 2 on the blast doors. If I lose another one just point blank here, so I was sweating it. But the robot actually missed, which was pretty great. And then we just filled it with lasers and my revolver and it exploded. So we all took 1 damage, which, funnily enough, would have killed Thomas's character. Or it would have, you know, he would have gone down because he only had 1 HP. The rest of us were we had a bit more, 5 or 6 or so. But yeah, so we killed the soldier bot. We go into the security room, and Studs gets hacking on the computers. He gets the blast doors open. He gets the front doors open again. And so the way is clear. The other guys on the other side of the blast door, they find a huge supply of processed azurite. Just fully processed, ready to go. Beautiful. They also find, like, this grav pallet. So it's like a skiff, it's like a pallet, but it's a hover thing. It hovers. So they load up the azurite, they send it up, and we start walking out of the facility loaded with azurite. And I'm like, all right, let's just jog as far as we can for like an hour, just to get away from any bandits that are on their way, because they're gonna arrive and this place is gonna be empty. So we get like an hour away, and it seems like we're not gonna be attacked by any bandits. But we start walking for a while, and then suddenly I get like another vision of an ice storm on the way. Now, ice storm would be bad enough. Just being caught in an ice storm. We had no cover. There was no cover anywhere. Ice storm by itself, just whatever, out in an ice storm sounds pretty bad. But keep in mind, we're all in vacuum suits. If our vacuum suits get some huge gash through it, you are done. There is no saving you. You are dead. They can sort of auto repair quickly enough small tears, so, you know, just if you stay a little concealed and some small icicles maybe rip a little bit, you're probably okay. But if you catch some big chunk of ice, you are just done. So that was worrisome. So we had a big discussion about what is the best way to get through this ice storm. And I had to weigh a lot of possibilities here. Again, I really enjoyed just being a heroic captain, really concerned about his crew. It's rare that I care about the other players and their characters this much, but I wanted to get in that mode. So I really was like, I can't lose a single man. You know, everyone has to make through it. And so we weighed a lot of possibilities. I heard from everybody, and I considered it all, and I'm like, we can't stay here. We have to try and get out of the ice storm. We have to crawl under the grav pallet while it moves in the direction we're going. And so we're just crawling along with it and hope we get out of the ice storm quickly enough and we avoid catching any big icicles or something. And we had the janitor bot pushing the electric skiff, our normal skiff, and we're crawling under the grav thing, and we're holding on to the pressure tent and just hope for the best. That was really the best plan that I could think of. And really, Thomas came up with it, although I had considered it in my head. He said, I'm like, yeah, that's probably the best. They were talking some nonsense, I'll be honest. They were talking like, well, the grav thing can go up 30 feet, so why don't we just put it 30 feet above us? And then, you know, we'll be fine. We'll, you know, whatever. We'll put the pressure tent down, we'll just ride it out. And I'm like, there are so many things wrong with that. One, we don't have oxygen supply. This ice storm could last 12 hours. We can't just sit here. And two, that's not how... it's not like hail or something coming straight down that it's like, oh, the pallet thing is up there, we'll be fine, it's shelter. It's like, no, this thing is going to be whipping horizontally with ice shards. Like, there's no... that's terrible. There were some bad plans, I assure you, but the best one that I thought, you know, that I thought would be our best chance of survival was crawling under the grav pallet. And so we did. But Ziggy's like, okay, 2 people are going to have to be sort of on the outside. Not the outside, but on the furthest exposed to the ice storm while crawling under the grav pallet. And so, of course, as the heroic captain, I volunteered. But also I have a good health supply. But again, the whole vacuum suit shredding thing scared me, but I'm like, I'll volunteer. And Mert volunteered because he has the most HP. So we're crawling under the thing, and sure enough, we crawl for like an hour or so, and we make it out of the ice storm. Crisis averted. So we keep going, we resupply oxygen, all that, we keep going, we're getting pretty close to Avalon City again, and a Jeep starts approaching us in the distance. So of course I used my precognition ability to find out exactly like who was in the Jeep, and it was this guy. It was the guy that we rescued. It was the guy that we rescued and a guard that I was familiar with. A gate guard or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you don't have to snipe him. Put your sniper rifle away. We can talk to him. And so he was very shocked to see how much Azurite we had. And basically we arranged it all with him and with the guard. We smuggled it in. We got it to a warehouse. And it was all good and good. We offered this guy 10% of whatever we sold. And I was going to be honorable with it. 10%. You know, we wouldn't have found this without this guy, so that was fine. So we've got a wealth of resources sitting in a warehouse now to sell it. And there were a few potential buyers we could go to. We ended up doing a vote, although I'm sure that I influenced the vote, of course. It wasn't... you know, it's not like I was trying to cheat anyone or any sort of influence like that, but it was more like... The main 2 that we were considering were... one of this woman that was part of this other noble family, and I kind of maybe wanted to bring power back to the old families just because that was, you know, that's my history is with this old guard. So that was a possibility, but I did a vision of it. I did a precog thing of it to see like how that deal might turn out, like would I be happy with it, and it seemed like I was a little disgruntled. But we ended up making a deal. So I knew that if I went with her, we would absolutely get a deal that I would agree to. So I wouldn't agree to some bullshit. So I'm like, okay, this is something I would agree to. We would get paid. I know it. The other one was this guy named Merlin that Gulk knew, because Phil's character had a contact named Gulk. We never met. Like, he wasn't in the session. He's who even knows if he's in the campaign now, because we left. But he knew this guy named Merlin, and this Merlin guy was real like reclusive. He had like some psionic training academy or something, and he was apparently responsible for a terrorist action against the Drethic biosphere. So in that aspect, I'm like, okay, he's against the Drethic people. I kind of like that, but he seems real reclusive. He could just as easily murder us or something and steal it all. I'm just like, I don't have a precog vision of this. I don't know. I don't know. It was questionable. So I'm like, you know, we put it to a vote. I ended up voting for the woman, and that was the majority. So that's what we went with. I went to her. I had dinner with her. We had a business discussion. She offered me actually more than I thought she would, to be honest. She said the market value was like 1.4 or 1.5 million for the Azurite amount. But she said, you know, money's tight. She was not in power or anything, really. She had more money than I thought. She offered me 925,000 credits. And I'm like, sure. You know, I knew that would buy me a ship. And that's really like, you know, Katsu's like hiding his giddiness, right? He's like, I can finally do it. I can captain a ship, my own ship. So of course he agreed to it. And I thought she might pull some shit. It was a sort of a tense little bit there where, you know, somebody could betray us or whatever, but we did the business deal. We got the credits. It was all good. So then we had to get off the planet. I did not want to buy a ship here because I want a brand new ship. This money can buy us a brand new ship. I didn't want a used one. So we can't get a ship here. We have to go somewhere else. So I'm talking to the guy we rescued. He was planning to leave the planet as well. And he's like, he can get us with the Drethic company or whatever. Basically had sort of shut down the planet. All the starports or whatever. Until they find the terrorist. But he said he could get us on a Drethic ship. That would take us to Drethic Prime. Which is their capital planet. And their capital planet, it's like a trade hub. It's a massive trading hub. And I'm like, that's where we're going to get a ship. That's where we're going to get it. So I'm like, all right, do it. Arrange it. Get us on the ship. I don't like, you know, like I said, I didn't want to just book passage on a ship and get off the planet. I wanted to fly out of here, but I realized I'm not going to get a ship built here. So that's our best bet. Get us out of here. So he's arranging that. That night, I get visited by an associate of mine, my contact that I was given. Who is another, he's like the heir to the throne of the old power, so he really has no, he's really nothing, he's just like a drunk now. And he tells me that Merlin wants to like talk to me. Merlin wants to see me. Merlin's got this idea that the Drethic company is planning to blow up the planet because they're run out of azurite and stuff like that. And so he wants me to meet with Merlin and form like a resistance or something like that and prevent this from happening. And I'm just like, oh man. First of all, I don't trust Merlin. I don't really trust this guy. I do care about the planet, of course. It's my home. If this is all true, that's shit. But I'm so close to realizing my dream. Captaining my own ship and living my own life. It's like, ugh. So I used Precognition, and I asked the question of like, would I be harmed or something like that if I went to go meet Merlin alone? And Ziggy's like, he basically said something like, you sense danger or something like, there is danger involved, maybe not directly to you, but there is definitely danger in you going alone to visit him. And I'm just like, that's just not a good prospect. So I'm like, I told this guy, look, you know, we should sleep on it. You bring up some important points, but let's sleep on it and I'll consider it. I was not considering it, but I wanted to. He brought like bodyguards with him, and I'm like, this guy's drunk. I don't want to piss him off, so I tried to be real persuasive. And it was good. He left. So the next day, we got passage on the ship. My aunt had enough money to get her own. I told her, I'm like, something bad could be going down. The planet may be getting blown up. You should leave. So she had enough money to leave. My brother did not. My brother Hoshi. And I'm like, all right, you know, you're my bro. I'm going to take care of you. So you're coming with us on this Drethic ship. I called up the guy, and I'm like, you have to get us another seat on this ship. And he made it happen. So my brother came with. We left the planet. Right before we left, I told that guy, I called up that guy, and I'm like, hey, you may have been right. Something may be going down with this planet. I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. He was not happy. He was not happy. He said he basically threatened me. He's like, Merlin will not be pleased. But we left the planet. We went into cold sleep for like 5 weeks. We arrived on Drethic Prime. We got some cheap housing, and a bunch of them started working odd jobs to make a little bit of money. And we spent our 833,000 credits because I had given 10% to the guy. So I went to a shipyard and I commissioned a ship to be built. And this was really fun. This was not fun for almost anybody else because it was basically me just sitting out and mathing out a ship. But I really enjoyed it. It's not a great ship. We just didn't have enough money to make it incredible. But it's a free merchant. It's got a weapon, one. It can land on planets. It's got a smuggler's hold. It's got a fuel scoop. And I upgraded the drive. So it's a spike drill 2. So, because I wanted, you know, we're going to be jumping a lot. We're going to be jumping across systems all the time. We may have to evade some stuff. I wanted to make us a little bit faster. So yeah, it ate up pretty much all of our funds. But we got the ship built. We named it the Excelsior as a tribute to Stan Lee. And that's it. We joined the Explorers Guild, because I had brought up the concept of rudders to the others. I had to explain all that as the sort of maps and routes through metadimensional space that you need to have. And so this prompted Ziggy to make a new faction in the galaxy known as the Explorers Guild, who you pay member fees to, and you have access to their database of rudders. Which I thought, like, makes perfect sense and is pretty cool, because it's the Explorers Guild. That's, I'm all about that. So we joined, and not only do we have access to their rudders, which is good, but we can also sell any rudders that we create during our travels to them as, like, an additional way of income. So that was pretty cool. So we left the planet in our new ship, the Excelsior, and we left the system. We jumped out of there. We went to this other system a couple hexes away, and we're going to be going to check out some orbital ruins where there might be some big valuables lurking. And that's where we left off after our 6-hour session. So we accomplished quite a bit. I think if we had broken up into 2 sessions, we would have done a little bit more maybe, and we probably would have been maybe level 3, hard to say. But we hit level 2 after the end of 6 hours, which was fine. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, very enjoyable. I'm definitely liking Katsu, the captain, the heroic captain. You know, I actually care. I want all the crew to survive. We're really hoping this will be a lengthy campaign. That's really our desperate hope, because there's a lot of things that you can sort of experience in a Stars Without Number campaign. It can vary wildly. The story can go on for a long time. You lose your ship, you end up, you know, abandoned or sort of shipwrecked on a planet. You have to deal with that for a while. Maybe you get more ships, you get bigger ships. You know, you become a faction or something like that. There's so much room to play around with. So I think everyone enjoyed it, but we'll see how it goes next time. Okay, I talked about that for a while. So, I guess that's it then. We got more Doom 3 and Final Fantasy X coming this week. Check out the Deer video tomorrow. And that's pretty much it. We're not doing Roll Mangin this week, because obviously we did quite a bit of gaming. Yeah, that's it. So, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. And I'll see you fine folks next week.